till killer cops are in cell blocks. Can't stop.
The following newly released video portrays an incident of assault and violence at the hands of police. Viewer discretion is advised.
I suggest you back the fuck up.
No, why you want to
This is Baltimore City Police Officer Jorge Bernardez Ruiz. In a newly released video shot in 2016, Ruiz is seen with his knee on the back of an unknown man with a gun pointed at the man's head. His message was a clear one: concerned onlookers, adhere to my dictates or else. Here, we can hear Ruiz saying to Baltimore residents,
I suggest you back the fuck up.
It is documented that Baltimore police officer Jorge Bernardez Ruiz is a repeat violent offender, even without access to all complaints against Ruiz, undisclosed by BPD Internal Affairs records. 6 cases involving Ruiz are known. This video will briefly highlight 6 total cases beginning in July of 2013. Case 1, Abdul Salam, July 1st, 2013. Here, Salam is seen victoriously smiling in celebration after the jury found Ruiz and 2 other cops liable for brutality against him. However, because the trial was civil, not criminal, Ruiz was not fired and he did not go to jail.
Police profiled me. They followed me in the back of my house, harassing me. Police proceeded to violently and hostilely approach my van with me and my son in it. As I announced, this was my home, guns drawn. Once they reached my vehicle, they violently pulled me out, ramshacked my vehicle with my 3-year-old son strapped in his car seat, threw me against the gate, slammed me repeatedly. Picked me up by my feet, and while I'm upside down, they proceeded to drop me on my head, hog tie me, and immediately when I fell on my head, Ruiz, in a wrestling type of action, and kind of hit his knee against my neck. I was arrested. I had no idea what I was being arrested for. My son is scarred to this day. He remembers the incident as it happened yesterday. When he talks about it, he always refers to Daddy being on the floor with police yesterday.
Case 2, Darrell Harris, profiled, as seen in this video, July 17th, 2013.
Yeah, Sid, what's wrong with it? Improper way with it. There's no such thing as an improper way.
You gonna tell me my job, bro?
I know the law.
Are you gonna tell me the law?
I know the law.
You gonna tell me the law?
I know the law. What's the problem? You giving me a ticket? You need my license registration?
Yeah, let me get it.
The profile, y'all use the seatbelt as a reason. Profile.
Hold on a second, sir. Do me a favor, take out your keys.
Yeah, you can record me. For what? Nah. I don't feel safe right now. Do you want me to step out the car? Do you want me to step out the car? I'll step out the car. Call the police, man. What are you call a supervisor? I'm about to do shit. This is getting uploaded to the internet right now. Yeah?
And we are 2 law-abiding citizens that we are getting targeted, and I don't know why.
Just 24 hours later, Bernardez Ruiz played a leading role in the police killing of unarmed Tyrone West. Case number 3, the murder of Tyrone West, July 18th, 2013.
My brother Tyrone West was brutally murdered on July the 18th, 2013.
In both of these cases, when you look at the pleadings and the harsh language of these officers that have been quoted to me by reliable witnesses, the N-word.
And Killer Ruiz and Killer Chapman and the rest of those 11 to 15 killers, including David Lewis, took something from my family that they could never give us again. And that was my brother Tyrone West, one unarmed man who was brutally murdered, beat to death in broad daylight.
This is West Wednesday 473,
justice for Tyrone West, and justice for all victims of police brutality. Tawanda, it's all you.
Thank you, Rachel. Mic check. Thank you guys for tuning in, joining in. Sorry we got on kind of late. But as you just saw the video, we still have no accountability. And to know that there were many victims leading up to my brother's execution is very heartbreaking. But tonight, our special guest has been this mother, this warrior queen, this beautiful soul, Miss Dorothy Elliott, has been fighting accountability like literally for decades. And my hat goes out to her, my hat goes off to her. It's like, oh my God, like it's just so sad that, a family and families, we're left to fight and live this pain and nightmare every day of trying to hold folks accountable for our loved ones' execution. And it's just not right. It's heartbreaking. It's devastating. It's very disgusting. No one should have to go through the nightmare of losing their loved one, especially from the hands of people that's supposed to serve and protect us. It's devastating. But no further ado, I'm going to bring on our queen, Miss Dorothy. Mic check.
Am I ready now?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
I'm sorry I couldn't get the Facebook thing going, but I'll try later. I am Dorothy Cobb Elliott, and as Tawana said, it has been decades almost. It's 29 years since my son passed. And unfortunately, I'm still, as they say, seeking justice. But I do know, and I'm very realistic, that the Prince George's Police Department has closed everything concerning my son. In fact, losing the files after maybe 5 or 6 years. We've tried to talk with a lot of the state's attorneys, at least 2 of them, and they always say, bring us some more evidence, then we'll take a look at the case. So as of now, there is no reopening it. For those who don't know or may not be familiar with my son's case, he was 24 years old, killed brutally by 2 police officers, one District Heights police officer, Jason Levitt, and the second one was the backup, a Black Prince George's County police officer. My son was wearing only shorts and no shirt, tennis shoes and no socks, coming from his construction job in Virginia that day, over 66 some miles. And he had stopped by wherever to get some beer. And like a lot of the blue collar people do, they go to their happy hour too, only they're in a bar or someplace. But he was less than 3 minutes from home when this young white officer pulled him over, District Heights officer. He alleged that the car was weaving or being driven erratically. He was searched. It was so hot that day, and a lot of people saw him sitting on the curb and saying, why don't they take him to jail? This was like a secondary road to our house, as we call it, a shortcut to home. And he told the police officer, all I want to do is just go home and get some sleep. And I know he's come home so many days being extremely exhausted. And he would even lie down on the floor with his clothes on. And I said, Artie, why don't you get in the bed? He said, no, I'll just stay here for a while. So he was sitting on the curb for a long time. And when backup came, who happened to have a ride along with him, they stood talking at this District Heights police cruiser right by the intersection, Kipling Parkway and Marbury Drive in District Heights. And they alleged that Artie pointed a handgun at them with his hands cuffed behind his back, the windows rolled up, he's seatbelted in the front seat of the cruiser. And they discharged their weapons 22 times. 14 shots struck Artie in the buttocks, the chest, the arm. And when they unbuckled him and opened the door, dark tinted windows, no one saw any weapon whatsoever. And it seemed like it took forever for the ambulance to come. They took him to PG Hospital. And I hope I'm not going to talk too long because I can go on and on. But how much time do I have, Tawana? How many minutes?
You can talk as long as you like, Queen.
Okay,
No
thank
rush.
you.
Take your time, sweetheart.
Okay, yeah. And just to let you know how some of the many barriers that we encountered, we couldn't find out where our son was. If we called to Prince George's community hospital, they would say he's not here. He's in Baltimore. We called to Baltimore, and they would say to the medical examiner's office, they said he's not here. He's in Prince George's hospital. And we got to learn so much. And when we finally did get an answer, they said, well, I thought you'd like to know that your son was shot multiple times, but again, he's not here. And the only way that I found out what had happened was that a friend of Artie's, whose car he had driven that day, recognized her car with the huge bullet holes on it on the TV. One of the channels were showing the pictures, and she went to the police station, and she said she recognized her car, and that she told who was driving it. And later, the police start calling me asking, did I have a son named Archie Elliott? I said, yes. We're coming over. I said, why? We're coming over. And they said that about 3 times. And then I just knew that something terrible had happened. I said, he's dead, isn't he? They still didn't answer me, but they came over anyway. And my sister my niece came shortly after they had come in. She said, I thought I told you not to say anything until we got here, till some of the family members came. And they said, I had to tell her that they didn't tell me anything. I just knew what was happening. And it was a long time before we could get the autopsy report. That's another barrier, because the medical examiner and Alex Williams, who was the state's attorney at that time, had a feud going on about something, and they just wouldn't release it. And Mr. Mundy, I'm sorry, Mr. Mundy, R. Kenneth Mundy, who was our attorney at the time, wrote a letter to them and said, you need to release them the autopsy or tell us why. I know within a few days we got 2 copies of the autopsy report, and it was 6 months or longer before I could bring myself to look at that autopsy report. My sister did. I gave it to her and she read it. And again, like I said, those were some of the barriers. Not getting a police report. Still don't have a police report. We have something from the District Heights Police Department, but that is no way detailing what actually happened to Artie. Huge bullet holes were in his body, as well as what showed up in the police cruiser. And when Mr. Mundy saw those pictures of my son's body, he had asked me to go out of the room. My nephew and I went to his office, and when I came back in, he was very shaken and said, these officers are going to get kicked off the force and they're going to get jail time. Again, it looks like we didn't have luck. I hate to say luck, but for lack of a better word, on our side. Mr. Mundy died 1.5 years after Artie was killed. And I think I cried like a baby that day because I felt like I was losing a lot. And I did lose a lot that day because his firm was not capable of handling the case after that. We did interview with Billy Murphy in Baltimore. We interviewed with the head of the ACLU here in Prince George's County. He wanted to take the case, but he said not as a member of the ACLU, but as a private attorney. And we again chose Mr. Mundy. And again, our case went downhill. We went to the 4th Circuit Court of Appeals in Richmond with 3 judges hearing what happened. Qualified immunity is a bitch. And we're trying to get that done away with. It needs to be done away with because that's what police officers hide behind. They can always say, I thought this, I thought that. And whatever they do, they're doing according to the law in the line of duty. So that's one of the many things that we want to get rid of. But to continue with what happened as from a legal standpoint, the two two attorneys representing the two police officers said, we're going to offer you a $25,000 settlement if you just don't say anything else about the case. In other words, just go away and be quiet. We said that's not even worth the paper that it's written on. So after 7 months of investigating by the Homicide Division, the Prince George's County Police Department, the Internal Affairs, they came up with no charges. So with no charges being filed, the officers were not indicted, and they continued on as if, I guess, nothing ever happened in their lives. But I say, as long as I live, the name of Artie Elliott is going to be remembered in Prince George's County. And one of the ways that I do that is to promote his scholarship that I started about 1.5 years after he passed. It didn't take off like it should have, and maybe that's my fault, but when you're trying to do so many things, and back then the computers were not out there like they are now, and I did a whole lot on my own, but my family was behind me. And every Wednesday at 3 o'clock, we would go to the site where Artie was killed. We were looking for witnesses that could come and help us or give some evidence to the police. And even the media would come up and ask questions. For 6 consecutive Wednesdays, we did that. And a lot of people are afraid to speak out. And we talked to our attorney. He said, well, yeah, just be careful of what you say. Yeah, you can speak out. And like I said, a lot of people don't have a network behind them. They don't know where to turn. I didn't know where to turn either. And some people reached out to me, the clergy and a few other people. And after a long time, maybe 1 year or so, people were asking, whatever happened to those police officers? Did they go to jail? And some people who lived in the community just had no idea of what has happened. Even Jack Johnson's secretary didn't know why we were protesting and blocking the door to the courthouse in Upper Marlboro. And we decided we'd go to Jack Johnson's office. He was the state's attorney at the time, and he wouldn't come out and meet with us. And we were saying, we're here for the Artie Elliott case. What's that? What's that? And they said, well, I don't listen to the news. I don't read the paper. Well, there are a lot of people like that young lady, unfortunately. And I said, if you think that you're well off and have money and nothing like this can happen to you, you'd never know. And I remember first starting to speak out when Terrence Johnson was accused of killing 2 police officers in Prince George's County. And Mari Salikhan, a young man who knew about the case, he encouraged me to start speaking out because I was reluctant to do it. I mean, even though we had our protest rallies and prayer vigils at the site, we did, with the help of Joe Madison, who's called the Black Eagle, and the Honorable Walter Fauntleroy, and a lot of local attorneys like Malik Shabazz and Thomas Ruffin, who would meet in Reverend in Mr. Fauntleroy's office and plan what we were going to do. So after protesting for 22 consecutive weeks on a Wednesday at noon at the courthouse, we decided we would try going to Annapolis. We wanted a special prosecutor to look into Artie's case, not those that were already in the state's attorney's office. Even when we asked them to reopen the case, they were reluctant to do so, saying that they had the best attorneys for prosecuting police officers, bar none. And I just didn't believe it. I don't believe it now. And we asked for the special prosecutor, and they say, well, we really don't need that. That was in Annapolis now. And God, it's so much was going on. And my son's case was not the only one at the time who could not get an autopsy report. There was a concert goer who was at one of the events, and he was killed. I don't know, choked or what happened, but his family had a hard time trying to get the autopsy report too. And that may not seem like a lot to some people, but that autopsy report tells you a lot. And I knew my son was intoxicated, according to the report that we got. But I don't believe he was belligerent. I think he cooperated fully with the officer who stopped him. And we even appealed to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals in Richmond. 3 of them, judges that is, out of the 13, they suggested we go to the Supreme Court or come back to have all 13 judges of the Fourth Circuit Court to hear the case. And we chose the Supreme Court. And Professor Lawrence Tribe, he was the one who handled the Al Gore case for the hanging chads, if you all remember that. And he said, this is one case that I really want to be involved with. And he, along with the local attorney in the district, did the cert to send to the Supreme Court. And after a short while, the Supreme Court declined to hear the case without comment. So legally, we had nowhere else to turn. We really didn't. So that's why I continue to support other mothers. Some people tell me that I may not think that what I'm doing is helpful. I hope it is to someone. And again, I like to be supportive of other families, and even going to San Diego last year for Families United for Justice helped a lot, to be around people who have gone through what you've gone through. And there's so many new mothers and families joining this group that I don't know why they didn't pass the George Floyd Act. I really don't. And a lot needs to be done about that. And Amnesty International sent me to Durban, South Africa for the World Conference Against Racism, Against Discrimination, Xenophobia, and other related prejudices. And I was happy to talk about what was happening in the United States, and more specifically about my son. And people who hear what happened, they just can't believe that the officers were not indicted. I've spoken to on Capitol Hill quite a few times with Delegate Bobby Scott from Virginia, who is in the area where my former husband is, Judge Archie Elliott. And we went to see Duval Patrick, who's in charge of the Civil Rights Division. And we met with them, and they said, well, it seems like it's a non-prosecutorial case. And Archie said, well, if we can't get justice here from the highest court in the land, where do we go? Where do you go to get justice? They said the bar for taking cases to the Supreme Court or for civil rights violation is a steep hill to climb. And that shouldn't be so. It should be made easier to get justice. But I guess because if you're Black, you won't ever get justice unless you really, really fight for it. And that's what we have to do. Let's see what else. I've been working with a lot of groups here in the county, the Prince George's Coalition for Police Accountability, the Maryland Coalition for Justice and Police Accountability, and of course the ACLU, who has been very, very helpful with our groups. And we do have a core group of a few people who definitely want to be involved and who will jump on social issues that we need to be dealing with. And one of them was the PAB, Police Accountability Board. We've had several rallies, car rallies around the county council building, talking about things that they should include in the PAB. And I guess all counties in Maryland have that because it was mandated last year by the 2021 legislature. So some counties may be further along than we are. Our group protested or gave testimony at least 3 different times on the Police Accountability Board. And we were covered by the Washington Post and the Washington Informer. And I think it was maybe 2 months or so ago. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. To speak from my heart tonight, and Tawana said some things that's really true about what happens or how long we've been at it. It just boggles your mind that you're never free from it. It's with you every day. A lot of times at night, when you walk through the hallways and you see pictures of your son, and I'm still asking why. Why did this happen? I've gone to several press conferences for lawsuits against the police department. One of them was for DeMonte Ward Blake, and the Bobby Murphy was representing him, the family, and they presented a $70 million lawsuit against Prince George's County Police Department. It's amazing how the county executive would spend more than $17 million trying to cover up the rotten police department and the chief, and trying to defend the lawsuit that was brought recently by the Hispanic and Black police officers for a whole list of things. And this can't go on. I think a lot of times people in public office think only of themselves. They're not representing us. And that's why we tend to be as vocal as we are. And again, they haven't heard from us. Even the county council said that after this session was over concerning the PAB, that they would see us in Annapolis. And they are right. They will see us in Annapolis. Let's see, some of the issues that we had for a banner, I don't know if you can see it, but it dealt with several issues, and I'll just read them. Lawsuits waste taxpayers' dollars. That is true when the county executive tries to hide things. Jail killer cops. They shouldn't be out on the street. If they have done wrong, broken the law like any other ordinary citizen, they should go to court, have their day in court, and be sentenced to whatever the penalty would be for an ordinary citizen. In qualified immunity, I just spoke about that. And I hope a lot of people will jump on the bandwagon and demand that they get rid of qualified immunity. Who's on the Brady list? That was on my banner, the Archie Elliott III Coalition for Justice banner. And even though they have made that public now, they should no longer be on the force if they've done wrong. If the state's attorney cannot use them to testify, then why are they still there? Open all cold cases. There are a lot of cases that didn't get any attention, got very little attention, and that needs to change. And one case that really bothers me to this day was the Ronnie White case, the young 18-year-old young man, I believe, who was accused of running over a police officer and killing him. He went to jail, stayed there no more than 48 hours before they alleged that he hanged himself. No one really believes that. But the attorney for those guards at Cheltenham said, not Cheltenham, but the place that they took them for, the county, and said no one's going to be held liable for killing this man dying. Again, they alleged he hanged himself, and that was the end of that. And the question that's asked on this banner, do elected officials represent the people? We are important to them. They need to know or hear from us when we don't believe that they're doing their job the way they should be doing it. And lastly, I will end with this poem that I wrote. A mother's pain, the death of a child. My beloved son, Archie Elliott III. On April 18, 1998, I had a habit of writing poems, sitting in my room, couldn't sleep. And this is one of them that I wrote. Sometimes the story is almost too difficult to tell. Shortly after I begin, the tears start to swell. Sometimes I am surprised that I can no longer say a word. I want to go on, but my voice cannot be heard. I swallow and wait for a sound. And in my body, my heart pounds and pounds. I feel the tension, the spasm, and the pain all over. Oh God, what a heavy burden that I have to shoulder. My pain is intensified at the injustice that I feel. Where is the accountability? Why did this happen? And how do I heal? Constantly I ask, how do I heal? 24 years quickly passed away. He did not live to see his 25th birthday. No longer can we talk and joke about our age. Though he was young, sometimes he appeared to be a sage. Not one part of my life has been left untouched. How do you tell the world that you love him so much? Who do you turn to when you feel you really must talk? I listen for the doorbell and I listen for his walk. I dare not think too deeply. I try not to feel the same agony I felt on the day he was killed. This must be a dream, I keep telling myself. I can't wake up from this nightmare, but faith in God does help. That's all for now.
Oh my God. Oh, that is so deep. Like, oh my God. First of all, I just want to say that my heart really goes out to you, Miss Dorothy. And I know words is not enough, but it's just so sad and devastating that you see this is a pattern that they do with murdering our loved ones. The only thing that changes is the victim name. It's still the same game. You've been fighting this for decades. I thought like I was struggling with these 9 years and feeling like, oh my God, like how many other cases, like came after my brother and, got accountability. And I'm like, you ain't never missed a beat. But now you get in a proper perspective for me. You've been out there literally 29 years. Like, that is so heartbreaking and devastating. And the same damn games that they played with your family is the same games that they're playing with all of our families. When you talk about the autopsy, that's one. So the autopsy, that's one thing. And that's what they do, And it's sad that this has been going on. This is something that they have been, it's a pattern. It's a pattern and it's very disgusting. It's like, oh my God, it's like, it's just a different name change. Like, you should have been had accountability. Like, and it makes me really feel like now, even now I feel hopeless. I'm not even gonna lie because when I felt like for 1 second that, we were closer to getting like accountability and stuff for the film and taking to the entire course, they all in it together. I just really now feel like smashing this whole system. Like they're just playing this game with our family lives. They don't care why we can't sleep at night. Like it rings true that they're still living their lives and these killer cops are getting off and their answer is always a dollar bill. And like, first of all, our loved one's life is priceless. Let's be crystal clear on that. Our loved one's life is priceless. And then, on top of that, like it's just disgusting. This is a racist system that doesn't give a damn about us. And it just reminds me of when, way before our time, when they had the Casual Killing Act that existed in the 1960s. In the 1960s, the Casual Killing Act. And it's the same exact thing. It's the same exact thing. When they were killing slaves and doing all this it's the same thing. And it's just so sad. And I could go on, but my heart, like, I'm all over the place, like, because that was just really powerful what you shared. And I'm always like, whenever I hear you speak, like when I met you first at a rally that I don't know where we were at, but it was somewhere. And when I heard you speak, and even before I heard you speak, and I read about your son, And I was like, then I read about cases that came after him. And I'm like, this sounds exactly just like Archie Elliott. Like these young men were executed in a police car and a weapon, and they can get away with it. And that's the disgusting part. You know, you kill a Negro, you become a hero. And the only thing they want to push at us is this pretend made up system, you know, to make that's pretty much, it's not broken. It never was fixed. It's doing what it's supposed to do. And that's just wiping us out, legalized genocide. But they are happy that we're calm while we're calm fight. And I'm not telling nobody not to fight and change the laws. I'm not telling nobody that, because you know, and everybody know that I done spent the night in Annapolis to change these lynching laws. But it's just sad and disgusting. But I really feel like they're trying to pretty much distract us, keep us calm. They'll give us a little bit of something on the books. But meanwhile, there's no killer cops and cell blocks. And I got very disgusted today when I heard that the 25 correctional officers that Marla Mosley dropped all the charges against them or whatever, her office dropped it. And then I had heard someone speak up for these correctional officers and say, oh, their life is messed up now. Like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? They don't never think about our life, even though that's the criminal justice system inside the jail, but it's the same thing on the streets. And they are the biggest gang in America. And they get to do all type stuff to us in the jail system and all of that. They have completely failed us. And it's just sad. And this is like, I'm just like so disgusted. Like I'm on fire. And as I look at your beautiful face, Miss Dorothy, as being a mother, I don't ever want to lose one of my children. I have 5 beautiful children. I said 5, Lord Jesus, my mind is all over. I have 4 beautiful children. And I would never want to lose them. I want them to bury me. But as I look at you and Nicole, you know, who are mothers that lost their child, like Nicole lost her beautiful daughter. It wasn't the police brutality, but it's still the same. It's different, the same, just on the other side. Here, so, you know, you take your picks all connected, you know, but to actually have you guys go through this agonizing pain and still be able to come on and talk and give back. Oh my God, it's beautiful and it's sad at the same time, because, and the reason why I say it's beautiful, because you guys are so, in my eyes, y'all sheroes, you know, to be able to have enough of breath and to come out your lungs to actually give to others as you go through such a devastating loss. And we know how it feels to have a child, carry him in our womb, be excited when we give birth to that child, and then to have that child snatched by these animals, whether it's a police killer cop or an animal on the street. Same thing, different. The only difference is when a cop kills us, we know who the hell they are, we know what they did, and they don't get any time. All they want to do is tell us, oh, we'll go fight for this law, push for that, push. No, we want these killer cops and cell blocks. How can you close a case that shouldn't have never been closed? Like everything, and it makes me, like I said, at this point, right now, at this moment, my mind is gone. I just like literally 5 minutes ago, I said I had 5 children. This is so disgusting to me, because now I really feel like I don't have hope in this system. Like, even though I'm trying, this is like make you just want to just knock it down and build it all back up. Like, just go hard on it, because I'm tired of, we're begging people just for human rights. We're begging them for human rights, to be treated and to be valued as a human being. How disgusting is that? That is so sad and heartbreaking, and we see it over and over and over again. And I read another article that really disgusted me that I wasn't aware of, that Murder Inc. put up, and it was about and they called it, and they got it right, because they said the biggest gang in America, you know, was selling guns and selling these like untraceable guns or whatever, and drugs. And I'm like, they're the biggest drug dealer murderers in the world, and they get away with it over and over again. And it's sickening to me. It's just so disgusting. Like I said, I can go on all night, but I won't. But you just like really struck a nerve inside of me. Like every time I hear any mother, but for you to actually fight in for your son in the way that they lied on your son. And what they'll do is on all of our loved ones, especially when they're killed by police, they always lie. They put drugs in the mix to taint their character. Because even in my brother's case, these jokers went so far to lie and say my brother had cocaine in the system. My brother, I could swear on my whole life. God forgive me for swearing, but I could put it on my whole life. My brother ain't never ever indulged with nobody cocaine. I promise you. And for them to taint his name in such a dirty, devastating way, like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, you gotta be kidding me. For them to even put the word cocaine with my brother's name, like, are you freaking kidding me? And knowing my brother was getting a urinalysis every week because he was on parole. He had a clean urinalysis every week. He had no desire to do it, and cocaine in all of his 44 years. The only thing is my brother couldn't wait to get off of parole and probation so that he can have him a little alcoholic beverage and maybe some weed. That's it. And weed now is legalized. They're making a profit off the shit right now. Excuse my language. Stuff that they give our brothers and sisters 20, 30, 40, 50 years, they selling it in Vegas, they selling it in DC, they selling it everywhere, and they're profiting. This is, oh my God, I just want to smash this capitalist system. I'm tired of, like, I'm trying to do things the right way and just have that slither of hope. And I pray, I'm in church, I'm trying to do the right things. But to have our loved ones actually executed, and these animals want to come back with nonsense, like with the disrespect to offer us money as if our loved ones didn't matter. Keep your blood money, your hush money. We don't want none of that. And even the ones that got rewarded and accepted it, they were supposed to got more than that. So it's not about the income, it's about the outcome. Because if you kill me today or tomorrow because you murdered me and took me away, a hard provider that provides for my family, you better pay my children. You have no choice, so you're not doing us a favor. You're digging in my pocketbook while I'm gone. I'm dead, but you're still taking my money, taxpayers' dollars that we worked hard for, and paying the family off. Like, as if that means something. You're supposed to go beyond that. The biggest thing we want is accountability, and people don't realize that when you go through these cases like we do, the first thing what you see is, when you see a family or you have a prosecutor that says, hey, you know what, like Greg Bernstein, that's the most evil, statistic, racist piece of human poop, okay? Piece of human poop that I've ever seen, that will sit in our family face and laugh and joke and say, you know what, this is cool for a civil case. You know, makes good. And I'm telling him about how there were victims leading up to my brother's execution, and he's laughing in my family face and saying, oh, this makes good. Like somebody give a darn about some money. Like, he was a racist piece of crap. He laughed at Anthony Anderson in them family face. It's just disgusting, the things that we go through. We have to make the connection. Guys, we really got to make the connection. This is something intentional. It's one thing for something that, just randomly happen. No, this is something that is intentionally happening to our loved ones. Why? Because they can get away with it. There's no other occupation that can actually get away with murder. You can never find firefighters sitting on a curb, letting a house burn down to the goddamn ground, and then they say, oh my God, their chief of command or chief of staff pulls up and say, why are you guys sitting out here letting that poor family burn up? They can never say, I fear for my life. And I know it's big fear when they're going in a blazing fire trying to put things out. Okay, I know it's big fear, but they couldn't get away with that. Why can these killer cops just say, you know what? Hey, I thought the baby had a bottle. I thought it was a weapon. I fear for my life. I thought that cell phone was whatever. And then they always try to talk, and they always try to, like I said, mix drugs in the case and say that, the person had this exuberant strength. That's where the drugs come from. That way that they can pretty much paint it off as our loved one's death as excited delirium without saying it. They can say, you know what? They fear for had all this drugs in them, in their system. They got all this strength, and they were real combative, and that makes it fit. And that is disgusting, and they get away with it over and over. I should never had to went in my pocketbook, take away from my children,
right? To spend $50,000 because these bastards wanted to lie to my family and say, "Oh, Mr. West died from a heart attack and dehydration. He died from everything, but him getting murdered. You know, he had drugs in his system, all this stuff. And the fact that I know now that they gave my brother Novocaine, like, are you freaking kidding? That's something that you administer to someone that is having this overdose. But they'll put all these drugs in their system. Trust me, I'm telling you guys this for a reason. Because God forbid if it didn't happen to you now, it's going to happen to another family. Sure as my name is Tawanda Jones, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. Unfortunately, it's a matter of when because the system allows this, okay? But what they do is they'll try to put some type of drug in your loved one's body. And that the fact that my brother had nothing in his body besides the chemicals that they sprayed him with, he has so many chemicals in his body for us. Pepper spray, all this stuff that they did to him. And then you want to put Novocaine in him. That was the way that you could lie and say he had other drugs. It's disgusting. So no further ado, I'm going to let Nicole say something and I'm going to check on because I see so many comments and questions in the queue. But I'm going to let Nicole, I'm going to give you 2 minutes, my queen, so you can greet our queen. And then also, I wanted to let you know, Miss Dorothy, my sister Angela Flemings is still waiting for Timothy Fleming's autopsy report. They have no autopsy report, and he was murdered a year ago, and here it is a year later. You have a family waiting for, they done came up on the year commemoration of Timothy Fleming that was executed, by the way, right in front of his children, and the poor babies are still living in that house that they're from. His 2 sons are still living in that freaking house, and nobody has stepped up in their behinds besides us as community trying to, do things. But I'm talking about anybody of power to say, you know what, first of all, let's charge these killer cops for going in there. When a man was having, a medical emergency and whatnot, they execute them, but yet they can walk these serial killers that murder people. They can walk them, they can talk them down and say, oh my God, don't do this. You can go in schools and kill babies. You can go and do anything that you want, go in a supermarket and kill innocent elderly people. And don't think when this racist piece of trash went in that supermarket, he had it planned who he was going to kill. He could have just thought, trust me, this was when they have hits on us, they strategically plan these hits and they execute them. They execute them to the fullest. They don't care who the hell they take down. They already said, you know what, we're going to really hurt the community because we're going to wipe out elderly old women. That's our queen. That's the soul. Our elderly are the souls of our communities. We're going to wipe out the mother. We're going to wipe them and we're going to send a strong clean out. Just like when that creep went inside of the church, who did he target? Elderly, vulnerable people. That was by design. He didn't go in a nightclub where black folks were. I could go on all night, but I'm gonna give my sister queen because a nerve has been struck. A nerve has been really struck. And I'm going to calm myself down. I'm going to turn my camera off for a few seconds. I'm going to give Nicole 2 minutes, sweetie, to greet our queen. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Good evening, Miss Harvey. My name is Nicole Pettiford, and I'm the daughter-in-law of Anthony Anderson, and I'm the mother of Ajay Harad, who both were murdered. My father-in-law was murdered September 21st, 2000, by the Baltimore City Police. They beat him to death. He had a ruptured spleen, broken ribs, blunt force trauma to the head, and the list goes on. 2 weeks later, they had set my daughter up because she had witnessed the murder, and they took my 16-year-old daughter to the police station and questioned her without an attorney, myself, or her father present. With doing so, you know that everybody knows somebody that knows somebody. It got back to the community, and 2 weeks after my father-in-law was killed, they killed my daughter, shot her in the head, and took her away from me. So after trying to be there for my husband and console him and try to be the shoulder that he needed to try to get through the horrible murder of his dad, he then had to turn around and put his feelings and his pain on the side to console me for my 16-year-old daughter that was murdered. It's sad and it's sick. And what's so crazy about it is I've been on both sides of the fence now. Police brutality and street violence, all of it is sick. Murder is murder, no matter how you cook it up. And I also wanted to speak for one of our other sisters, Kia Shaw. She couldn't be here tonight because she's just so strong. Her mind is just all over the place. She's really going through it. And I understand, because sometimes just because it's been a minute, or, you know, it's not that actual day that has come up on the death of your loved one, sometimes it can just be overwhelming and it just hits you all at once and you like, oh my God. And, you know, she asked me to go to the state's attorney's office with her because her brother's name was Benjamin. I'm not sure of his last name, so I don't want to say it, but I do know his first name is Benjamin. And I literally looked at the footage on how they stole this young man's life, and it was the most sickening, disgusting, horrible thing that I had ever seen in my life. I did not see my daughter get shot. I did not see my father-in-law get beat to death. It's just the information got back to me and I knew my family was gone. But to actually see it for myself, I'm just at a loss for words. It was so crazy. So I really feel her pain. It's not like I didn't feel it at first, but like I said, to visually see it, it's something that's etched in my brain now that I can never get out. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of our sister Queen, that she's hurting and she's going through something. And I just wanted to put her out there too, because she needs us like we need her when we're fighting this fight. We're all one family when it comes to fighting this fight. No one is greater than the other one. We're all hurting. We're all looking for accountability for our family members. We are all looking for justice for our family, something that should have never happened, especially the way that it did. Y'all act like that y'all are God. Y'all act like y'all can just give life and take life when you want to. That's not your job. Take somebody else's life. But you go home at night and you sleep good, and you know, you get up and go to your job the next day, and we're the ones that's left here suffering. But it would be a big stink if all these police officers that had any involvement in any one of our cases that killed our family members, if all of them was to miraculously, all of their family members was in a situation like us where they lost someone in their family. Good God Almighty. You probably have to shut down the whole country, because they will be looking for anybody and everybody. They will probably be going to go check out toddlers and stuff to make sure that they wasn't the one who took their loved ones away from here. But us, they don't give a darn. It is what it is. I feared for my life. They shouldn't have been there at that time. They look suspicious. Oh, they fit the description. No. And like I say all the time, enough is enough. We have got to stand and fight for what is right. Because if we don't stand for something, we're going to fall for anything. And they wiping us out slowly but surely. They coming out here with all these different kind of things that they trying to do with the monkeypox and the COVID and everything. I guess y'all figure blowing our heads off because we had a stop sign and our car looked better than your car. That's not good enough to kill us like that. So now y'all want to add other stuff on top of what you're already doing to take away our family members. It's not fair and it's not right. We are human beings. We have loved ones. We have feelings. We have fears and stuff just like everybody else do. And the one thing that I always say, if you're too damn scared to be a police officer, then this is the wrong business for you to be into. If you that goddamn scared, take your ass somewhere and go sit in the library and stamp books all goddamn day long instead of coming out here on these streets and taking our loved ones and using that lame ass excuse as I feared for my life. And I apologize, Queen, for my language, but I'm so sick and tired of these daggone police officers, no matter what state, what country, no matter where they are, all of them go by the same sorry excuse. I feared for my life. I'm tired of it. And we are going to get something done. We are going to get justice one way or another. And I am not going to stop fighting this fight until there's no breath left in my body. I got all of y'all backs, just like I know y'all got my back. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
So, real quick, I want to go to our brother Marcellus, just to check on the comments and questions. But before I do that, I just literally want to just send my heart and love out to anybody that's experiencing any type of homicides, because the homicide rate right now in our city is beyond off the hook. Anytime you seeing babies killing babies, like that is so heartbreaking on so many levels. It's like, it's just disgusting. And then the summer is like, we're literally coming to the summer being over and going into another season soon. And it's like, at what point? And then they're saying now that the murder rate is higher than they ever saw it before. Just like the police brutality rate is higher than they ever saw it before. But again, legalize genocide. Legalize genocide, because at the end of the day, look at who is being murdered. Look at who babies are protected. We're the ones not protected, while so many people have so much of protection that they can, they have the pursuit of happiness. They their bed, go jump down the street, whatever they want to do, and they don't have to worry about, oh my God, is my son or daughter home? Did they make it home safe? Like, it is beyond devastating. So I'm gonna bring our brother Marcellus on, and I want to say congratulations to our brother Marcellus. He just got married, and I know his time is very precious right now, because I know he want to be booed up with his wife. So I just want to thank him for even being here, and I want to thank again our beautiful Queen Miss Dorothy and our beautiful Queen Nicole, and just anybody that's going through something. So, brother, the floor is all yours. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check. We have a few comments. Hillary says mic check. Adina says mic check. Kalia says mic check. Bill says good evening, everyone. Very glad to be here with all of you, organizing to demand accountability for Tyrone West and for all victims of police terror. Nelson says mic check. Adina says the medical examiner is a co-conspirator of all police agencies. Adina says it's eerie, the similarities between this story and Tyrone's. Qualified immunity is BS. It's known that internal affairs, the state's attorney and medical examiner work in conjunction to cover up police-involved deaths. Danu says, salute 300 gangsters. We all we got, we all we need. Live, love, everybody. And Adina says traffic stops should never result in death, period. Hillary says, Miss Dorothy, it is so important that you have continued to speak out. You're right. It should be much easier to get justice. There needs to be accountability by police, OME, state's attorney, judges. Cover up by this system is disgusting and wrong. Kalia says, that's right, Miss Dorothy. Elected officials only listen to those with the most money to offer. Bill says, I think elected officials serve the capless in their needs. No one should have to suffer with that pain. Much love to you, Dorothy. Kalia says, love. Despite the pain and torment that inspired that poem, it was truly beautiful. Adina says Causal Killing Act was actually from the 1600s in colonial Virginia. Nelson says killer cops need to be in a cell block. Adina said, or 1800s, but it's from way earlier than 1960. And Bill says, I 100% agree. Killer cops in cell blocks is what we need. Kalia says, just like Tawanda, we all need to use our anger and energy to fight all oppressors and barriers that destroy our lives and communities. Kenji Scott, I think, says who? I'm not sure what she's referring to. Adina says Narcan. And Hillary says, yes, Tawanda, policing is an unethical racist practice that is sanctioned by a racist legal system. Nelson says, mic check. Adina says Benjamin Tyson, I guess referring to Kenji, what Kenji said. Daniel says, yes, there's no way to put a price on a senseless loss of life. The families deserve an answer and someone empowered to fight for them. Clea says, mic check. Nelson says, congratulations, mic check. Thank you, Nelson. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic
Mic check.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring on Uncle Bill because he wanted to share something with us. So I'm gonna bring him on before we actually go to the sad list, and then before we go to the sad list, after I bring on Uncle Bill, I want to check in with our beautiful Queen, Miss Dorothy, to see if she want to say anything else before we start reading the sad list. Okay,
Yes,
so
I'll be very brief. Could you give the speaker, the last lady who spoke, my information because I would like to talk to her off of the meeting? And also, I want to stress that whenever an incident happens or the killing of our loved ones, to seek the best legal defense attorney that you possibly can, or prosecutor, I guess, and make sure that you have faith in them and that you've done your due diligence and that they are willing to fight for you and with you. And another last point is that the police have such a great camaraderie. There's nothing like the blue line. So they care for themselves. Let one of them get killed, and you will see how angry they become. You'll see how close they become, and you will see that they will spare no manpower, no resources whatsoever to bring the person to trial that killed their brother. But don't they think that we love our family, our real family, just as much as they do? So again, they need to be held accountable.
absolutely great points, Miss Dorothy. Love it. Awesome. And then that's interesting, and it also depends on what brother and sister was killed in blue, because in Detective Suter case, everybody got quiet when he was killed by his own. Far as the blue, I didn't see any blue love for him. That was very interesting. But Uncle Bill, it's all yours. Mic check.
Mic check.
Before I talk about something, Dorothy, I wanted to ask you a question. Perhaps you said it tonight, but I don't recollect hearing it. So I just want to bring out something. If I'm not mistaken, isn't it true that when the cop shot Artie, that his hands were handcuffed behind his back?
Absolutely. Yes, they were. There's no disputing that. His hands were still cuffed behind his back as he lay dying, bleeding to death on that concrete.
Yeah, and it's wonderful to have you with us tonight. Your story always makes me sad, but these are things we all need to know. The other thing I wanted to speak about for a moment is a case in New York City, and a young man who was 18 years old, a Latinx man named Raymond, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, Caluisant, Raymond Caluisant. He was killed by an off-duty cop. He was actually a correctional cop, not an on-the-street cop, back a month ago. And Raymond was playing with a toy water gun. It's called a gel bead toy water gun. It was bright white and orange. It couldn't be mistaken for a weapon. And the cop, his name is Dion Middleton, cop shot him in the face. And then the cop abandoned him, left him there in a pool of blood, dead. Now, there's been one court hearing so far, and a number of supporters went, the family went, and because of that serious pushing, the cop was suspended without pay, and he's been indicted on 3 charges: second-degree murder, first-degree manslaughter, and second-degree manslaughter. And there's another court case coming up in just 5 days on the 22nd of this month, and I'll try to find out the outcome there and update the case. It's just another one of the horrible cases. One of the groups organizing for his support at the court has been Progressive Labor Party. We take police killings and the fight against this very seriously. So that's all I wanted to bring up right now.
So mic check.
Mic check.
So
Mic check.
Mic check. Yes. So again, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're not ready to close out yet, but we are ready to go to the sad list. But before we go to the sad list, I want to check in to see if anybody want to say any closing thoughts, closing remarks, because the homicides that are happening in our city right now, literally all around the world in different parts, so tragic. I don't want to take away from that by us just like just going on. I want to focus in and let that be the last thoughts of we're standing in solidarity and showing love and humanizing these victims, because it's sad and unfortunate that until it's a certain victim, people don't care about it. The victim, family, or anything. It's just like you just hear a name and it's like, oh well. But at the end of the day, these families are struggling. And again, like Miss Dorothy, Elliott just pretty much showed us. It's been 29 years and her pain is still real. She still cried. And that poem just really, really, it was so beautiful. And it was sad at the same time, but it was so real and it touched on so many levels of how I feel just wanting to hear my brother run up the steps one more time. Wanting to hear my cousin Tavon Anderson call me and say, hey, cuz, what's going on, one more time. It's real. It's real when you cannot hear your loved ones or see them or feel them or smell them or touch them. It's real and it's very heartbreaking. And it doesn't matter how many years, the pain is still real. That's a hole in your heart that will never, ever close. I don't care what type of closure you may have, even if you do seek accountability, that hole will still be in your heart. I believe it will still be in your heart, So I just want to check in with my queens and just check in with anybody to see. And then I also want to check in with Marcellus to see if anybody left an additional comment or question before we actually go to the homicide list as well as the police brutality list. Mic check.
Mic check. Miss Dorothy, I just wanted to say to you that now that I met you tonight, you are part of my family now. I understand that none of us wanted to be a part of this family, but now we are family, and I love you, and I just met you, and I love you. And I'm going to pray for you that God can ease some of that pain that you're feeling, because I know exactly how you feel. This is not something I heard or somebody sitting here describing to me. I know wholeheartedly what you're going through. It's days that you just sit around and it seems like you hear him whisper in your ear, and you turn around and you realize that he's not there. So I know that feeling, and I just want to let you know that I'm giving you a virtual hug and that I love you.
Say that it never goes away. There is no closure. I think closure for me will come the day that I'm no longer here. And I have great moments. There are days that I'm happy, but I can't even read some of the comments that mothers put on when it's the anniversary of their child or when it's a birthday. I get so full that I just can't. And I say I'll come back to it later, because sometimes I make comments and sometimes I don't. But it is heartbreaking.
Tawanda, I think Angela's with us tonight. If you want to ask if she'd like to speak.
Oh, sure. So, awesome. So, our beautiful sister Queen
Angela, would you like to say anything to Miss Archie? I keep calling you Miss Archie Elliott. Your son, he's so proud of you right now. I just feel his presence and spirit and just saying, that's my mama. That's my mom. I just really feel him. But would you like to say something to Miss Dorothy? Mic check.
Mic check.
Yes, I spoke to Miss Dorothy like before the program started. We met last year in San Diego, and I extend my condolences to her. And just know that I'm still praying for you and your family. Mic check.
Mic check.
Awesome. That was so sweet. Thank you, sis. Yeah, so and and I want to give a big shout out to Uncle Bobby, you know, and his beautiful wife to actually connect us all together. And that's why I thought it was very important that I got all the Baltimore families together. I sent you guys the information for the conferences. They are amazing, even though they're heartbreaking. They're very amazing and they're very important. And I will continue on sending information. And Miss Dorothy, I'm going to send you that information about the upcoming event that's coming up, as well as Nicole's phone number, so that way you girls can chat. Ladies can chat. I apologize. That way you ladies can chat, and you know, so we'll just take.
Thank you.
Thank you, Queen.
You're welcome. So Marcellus, do we have any more questions or comments before we go to the sad list? Uncle Bill, is Marcellus still on? Because he might not still even be on.
I can't tell you. You'd have to ask Rachel.
I'm still here.
Oh, okay. Hey, brother, do we have any more questions or comments?
Yes. Kalia says Raymond's sister specified that Raymond wasn't the only one with a water gun. There was a neighborhood water fight in 90+ degree weather. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. So this is the part that I drag going to, but it's very important that we go there to uplift these families. And I see my brother Brian and Q. Before I go to the sad list, whatever. Brother Brian, would you like to say anything to our beautiful queen, Miss Dorothy, or Nicole, our beautiful sister queen, Angela? Would you like to say anything at all before we go
I would just
to the
Yeah, I would just say to all of them and to you that, you know, the women in this fight are an incredible inspiration to me, and I just respect and love deeply all of you, and you know, I will be there for you in any way that I can. You can use me. Just let me know. But I'm always amazed by the strength and the courage and the love of the women in this movement, and that's all.
Oh, thank you for that. So now, I just want to again say thank you to our beautiful Miss Dorothy, you know, for sharing her pain, and not only just sharing her pain, but being so positive. And we earlier, Rachel, our beautiful sister Rachel, she shared the information. So if any which way you guys can help, because Miss Dorothy is doing amazing work and she's giving back to families that need it. So we have it up on the screen again. Please, if you can donate anything, $1, 50 cents, whatever, you know, please donate, because our sister, Miss Dorothy, is doing a lot to give back, and she is really a true warrior queen sister that is just like literally fighting for all of us. You know, so no mother should feel the pain that she is going through. 29 years. 29 years. That's a very long time for anybody to be fighting. I thought 9 years was like, oh my goodness. 29 years. Like, oh my goodness, it's just like amazing. So again, the information is up on the screen. If you'd like to, please share, please donate, share, and donate. And if this is your first time watching us on YouTube, I know police brutality, I know murder, none of that stuff is popular, right? But all we ask you to do is hit the like and the share button on YouTube. Hit the like and the share button. If you're on Facebook and you follow me, you can like as well and share you know, this on Facebook, because people need to know. Don't wait till it happens to your family until it's too late. So again, I just want to thank each and every last one of you guys. And right now, this minute or moment, can we please take 1 minute for all the families, even though we know all the minutes in the world cannot heal a broken heart or fix any of our troubles. But at the end of the day, just like my brother Boom says, we all we got, we all we need. And that is so true. Because had it not been for you guys, I just want to give everybody a big shout out for making my birthday very special, and just making every day very special. Because some days that you're supposed to want to celebrate, you know, you don't want to celebrate because you be stuck in sorrow. Like literally, you know, the old me, like my brother was still here. Oh my goodness, I would have, like, you know, been everywhere. But I'm trying to do the best. But I just want to thank each and every last one of you that wished me a happy birthday wish, gave me your beautiful gifts, your beautiful kind words. Just thank you guys. And yeah, just thank you guys so much. So we're gonna take 1 minute. Just remember that, oh my goodness, this could be your loved one. Don't just hear a name and just say, oh my goodness, and just repeat it as we do our mic check. Hear that name and let's try to figure out how can we stop the brutal executions of human beings that are daily happening right here in our own city. Like literally, I know it's happening around the world, but right now we're in Baltimore, and we're talking about Baltimore. It's whether you're in Baltimore City, Baltimore County, but people are getting murdered, and that is way too much. And then as we read the police brutality list that is happening, in different states, it's a serious issue. We need to figure out how can we stop it. And please, if you pray, say a prayer. If you don't, that's fine. Keep these families in thoughts and positive um, energy towards us right now at this moment. We're going to take 1 minute of silence, please. Mic check.
Mic check.
And thank you guys so much. And Brother Brian, the floor is all yours. And again, I just thank you because I know you don't always want to be the face of having to be the bearer of bad and sad news. And unfortunately, you're in that spot. But we definitely appreciate you just letting people know that these are human beings. This is someone loved one. And then as small as this world is, you may hear a name and say, "Oh my goodness, I didn't realize that was so and so." So yeah, thank you so much, Brother Brown. Mic check.
Mic check.
Thank you, Tawanda. Yeah, my contribution to this fight in this place is that I bring forth the names of the people who have been killed in Baltimore every week, just so that someone can always uplift their names and always recognize their humanity and always, recognize the humanity of their loved ones, their family, their people they work with, their friends. And so I just ask you as I read each name, and I'll state their age, just if you just echo those back to me, and, we can do at least that much for them. So, Darius Jones, 26.
Darius Jones,
26.
Devin Robinson, 30.
Devin Robinson,
30.
Leon Davis, 23.
Leon Davis.
William Farabee, 24.
William Farabee,
24.
Joshua George Camara, 21.
Joshua George
Camara, 21.
Marcus Anthony Roberts.
Marcus Anthony Roberts. 34.
There are also 4 other people whose names we do not know at this time who died in Baltimore in the past week. As those names become available, I'll try and add them to the list. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And again, I'm praying for these families. As a Christian woman, I'm definitely truly praying for these families, and I thank you. And now we're going to have Uncle Bill, who's going to have the list of police brutality victims. And I thank you again because I know you also don't like being and that, just the bearer of bad news. of sad news. So again, thank you so much. Mic check.
Mic check. And thank you, Tawanda. We're going to start with a person who we mentioned last week, but at that time he was unidentified. And in addition to him, there'll be 11 others whose names we're upholding tonight, whose lives were stolen. I do want to point out that, Tawanda, you referred to this list as the police brutality list. It's only a list of those who are actually murdered by the police. For each of these cases, statistically, there were probably 80 cases of police brutality, but the victims lived. So we're going to be reading 12 names tonight. That represents probably 800 or 900 people who were brutalized but survived that we're not mentioning. The first name that we didn't know last week, and I'll give the background, and then if you could repeat to uplift this person's name. He was from Harris County, Texas. This is on August the 8th, and his name is Javier Alanis.
Javier Alanis.
Javier Alanis.
Again on August 8th, in Lawrence County, Arkansas, 40 years old, William Newman.
William Newman.
Thank you. And Nicole, if you could, the next person is unidentified at this point in time. If you'd like to talk about killer cop cell blocks, but after I mention the case, that'd be great. This person was from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We don't know the age, and we don't know the gender.
Killer cops and cell blocks. Ashe.
Ashe. On August the 10th, in Key Largo, Florida, 48 years old, Lane Cavanes.
Lane Cavanes.
On August, thank you. On August the 10th, in Hazel Township, Pennsylvania, 23 years old, Jordan Urinovich.
Jordan Urinovich.
23.
In Clinton County, Ohio, on August the 11th, 42 years old, Ricky Schiffer.
Ricky Schiffer.
In Carlsbad, thank you. In Carlsbad, New Mexico, 48 years old, Gabriel Maestas.
Gabriel Maestas.
48.
In Utahville, South Carolina, 27 years old, Tyler Mendez.
Tyler Mendez.
Tyler Mendez.
August the 11th, in Victorville, California, 33 years old, Byron Hayes.
Byron Hayes.
Byron Hayes.
August the 12th, in Richland Hills, Texas, a man who has not yet been identified.
Cell blocks for killer cops. Ashe.
Ashe. In Appleton, Wisconsin, on August the 12th, a man who has not yet been identified.
Cell blocks for killer cops. Ashe.
Ashe. And finally, in Waterloo, Iowa, 32 years old, a man with a toy weapon, Michael Aarons.
Michael Aaron.
And that completes our list of stolen lives by the police for this evening. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
So again, I want to thank each and every last one of you guys. I want to give a big shout out to our sister Rachel, who is the woman behind the wheels tonight that's actually pushing this through. Took her time last minute, took the assignment. Thank you, Rachel, for always truly being there. Thanks to the West Coalition for always truly being there. A big shout out to Miss Dorothy Elliott, and my heart goes out to you. I'll be praying because no mother should ever have to bury her baby. So thank you, beautiful queen, for tuning in at the last minute and, dedicating your time and getting your loved one, and just know that your son is super proud of you. Super proud of you. Like, I'm super proud of you. I'm super proud of you. Yeah. So just continue to work. Let's continue to be in touch. And I will see you at the next conference. next month. So we'll be talking in live. I'm definitely giving you a virtual hug, but I'll give you another hug, even though we're in scary times right now. But just letting you know we appreciate your work. Thank you all, Sister Queen Nicole. Thank you all, Sister Queen Angela. Just thank each and every last one of you guys. And I just want you to remember that we just heard 2 devastating sad lists. Do not wait until one of your loved ones is on either the homicide list of community violence or the police brutality list. And like Uncle Bill said, that was just the ones that had fatalities. There's so many victims that are victimized and everything. So again, let's just keep the families in prayers. And it's just so sad. We're in a sad time because, like I said, a lot of babies are being murdered right now. A lot of babies should be returning to school in the next 2 weeks, but instead, some of them are showing up in the funeral homes and morgues. That is very heartbreaking. Doesn't matter if it was a killer cop that murdered them or someone from community violence that murdered them. Murder is murder, and it's not right. It is not an act of God. So if you pray, keep these families in prayer. If you don't pray, that's fine. Send out positive vibes, and let's just try to figure out how can we hold these elected officials accountable to making sure that everybody has the pursuit of happiness. Remember, live to love, love to live. I love you all. We brought you in with an unfortunate real video of witnesses, not witnesses, I'm sorry, victims that were traumatized, that survived the first killer cop, Ruiz. And even though we just calling out Ruiz, but in my brother's case, there were 17 killer cops. I want every last one of them. You know, I don't call out David Lewis all the time. I don't call out these killers. Derek Beasley, none of them, right? Latrice Lee. I want each and every last one of y'all in a cell block. We can't stop. We won't stop until killer cops are in cell blocks. We can't stop. We won't stop until killers are in cell blocks. Nobody deserves to be brutally murdered. So again, please continue on watching the video, share, like, and hit subscribe. Thank you so much. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
And Mr. West begging for his life. And Mr. Salam begging for his child to be excluded and comforted from what was taking place. Not for himself, but for his 3-year-old child.
Case number 4, Adina Britt and family, September 10th, 2015.
My name is Adina Britt, and I wanted to submit a 30-second testimonial that Jorge Omar Bernardez Ruiz is one of the 11 terrorists that came into my house performing a home invasion in September 2015, terrorizing my entire family and even holding my 12-year-old son at gunpoint. He needs to be stopped.
Case number 5, unidentified arrestee, assaulted in 2016.
I suggest you back the fuck up.
No, why you
Again, this video did not surface until the summer of 2020. Case 6, Thomas McCullough, May 2016 and February 2017.
I heard my front door coming off the hinges like it exploded.
Thomas McCullough says it happened twice. In May 2016 and February 2017, Baltimore City Police burst through his green front door and raided his Pimlico home.
They said police. They come up, shotguns, guns.
He says officers ransacked the place, looking for drugs, money, and weapons. He took pictures of the damage he says they left behind.
Tell us where the drugs are, the scales, the guns, and them large amounts of money.
Nothing was found. Now he's suing police, claiming officers, including a former member of the Gun Trace Task Force, frightened him, his wife, and father-in-law when the officers conducted what his suit calls an illegal search of his home. The owner of the house tells 11 News after the second raid, he had to replace the front door. McCullough and his attorney say they want Baltimore police held accountable.
There is a colossal breach of trust.
And McCullough tells us following both raids, no one was arrested or charged.
This all begs the question, when will Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby see the prosecution of Bernardez Ruiz as warranted?
They were the stopping officers in these so-called jump-out cars, unmarked and so forth, that stopped both the West vehicle and the Salam vehicle without probable cause. And these officers are the ones that also were joined by others, but they are the ones who initiated the stops, pulled both men out of the vehicles, and commenced the vicious activity that was thrust upon them.
And the officer Ruiz that started this attack is still working and working with promotions. He is now sergeant. But the fact that this repeat violent offender had a history leading up to my brother. There was Darrell Harris, there was James Green, Joseph Green, Abdul Salam, and my sister Adina and her family. No one family deserves to be brutally murdered or brutalized by this repeat violent offender Ruiz. It is time we take action. The time is now.
Baltimore police officer Jorge Bernardez Ruiz is a repeat violent offender. Based on these accounts, in accordance with the law, we, the West Coalition, call for him to be fired, prosecuted, and incarcerated.
We're more than hashtags and body bags. We're more than being 6 feet in the dirt and pictures and buttons on t-shirts. Our lives matter.
For the safety of our city, the prevention of further harm, and the justice for these families, we see no other option.
And again, I'll say, the time is now.